Check in with Trey Hardin, ABC News political analyst. Here joins us every Tuesday. Good morning, Trey Hardin.
Hey, good morning, Mcgraw. How you doing?
How is the Republicans combating President Obama's United States economic tour?
Well, we are at that point again where we're kind of legislating through crisis or crisis legislating, and it's unfortunate, but we're at a standoff again. And you basically have a president on one side who just lacks any leadership or diplomatic skills at all, and you have a Republican House that seems that they would rather be right than productive, and it's problematic. There doesn't seem to be any progress right now on some of the looming economic or fiscal issues that have to be addressed. We're again getting close to a potential government shutdown on September 30th. So there's going to be some political games played with that, or some game of chicken played with that. And again, we're reaching another point with respect to the debt or debt ceiling where a decision's going to have to be made, and both sides are very far off on that as well.
It really cracks me up over this debt thing. First of all, every time we talk raising the debt level, I love the fact that President Obama, when he was a United States senator, he voted against raising the debt limit, and boy, how have things changed now. But raising the debt limit, how come they don't stomp their feet when it comes to budget time? Because if you don't want to spend, don't pass the spending bills. This is passing the paying bills. You got to pay for what you've already voted for.
Well, absolutely. I mean, again, a lot of this is probably, to the listeners out there, very complicated because they're hearing things like budget resolution and sequestration and debt ceiling and fiscal cliff, and it really does come back down to the Democrats and this president want to raise revenues, and the Republicans want to cut everything they possibly can, and there's no voice of moderation. There's no meeting in the middle right now of this. I think most analysts, most people would say that the reality does lie somewhere in the middle, because you're not going to solve the problem on, just raising the revenue route, or you're not going to solve the problem by just completely cutting because of the situation we find ourselves in. So it's somewhere in the middle, but that just unfortunately doesn't exist in this town right now.
Well, what's interesting about it is, and you can go all the way back to the people who created this system, neither party has full power. So they can rant and rave and scream and yell all they want, but they don't have the power to do exactly what they want. So normally you're supposed to compromise, but in this situation, both sides just turn their back and say, we're not budging. I mean, it's a game of 3-year-olds.
Well, it absolutely is. I mean, the maturity level of this town is the lowest I think it ever has been. And but to your point, our system has been this way for generations and decades, but I remember a time back in the '90s mid-'90s when you had George Mitchell, the Democrat leader in the Senate, and Bob Dole, the Republican leader in the Senate. They respected one another. They were friends. They found ways to get things done, and there was a lot more of a productive, compromising focus. Everyone recognized that in order to get something passed, you're going to have to hate elements of it. It's just it's the nature of compromise. But I'll tell you, over the last 10, 12 years, that's just hasn't existed, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I also think it's probably, Trey, and you know this better than anybody, these legislators say whatever they have to get into office. They get into office, and then all of a sudden, they have to continue to play that game. If they don't, somebody to the right or to the left of them is going to bring them up in a primary, and they're going to be challenged. So they can't compromise, or they're going to lose their seat over it.
Well, that is a big element. Say that the political pressures are higher than they've been in the past. People are certainly looking behind to see who's coming up after them more than they have. But this is really a situation where this president right now has zero leadership skills, zero diplomatic skills, and then you have House Republicans, about 60 to 70 of them, that literally would rather be right than productive and have said, hey, I got elected in these districts, and I am not going to compromise one bit because I told my constituents that I'm not going to budge on the spending issue, or I'm not going to budge on raising taxes. So it's a mess when you have those two elements in play.
How much of it is the fact that Boehner doesn't have any levers anymore, or the Speaker of the House has fewer levers today than he had, say, 15, 20 years ago? So you can't put that new water park in somebody's district to get them to vote on something else.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, that type of deal making, that type of negotiating, even within your own conferences or own party, does not exist like it used to, as you just acknowledged. I mean, I think the problem for John Boehner right now, and I am just a big fan of his and a friend. He's too nice of a guy to be speaker, and being speaker right now requires someone that's really, really willing to get in the mud and be tough. And he's a historic legislator. I mean, he used to work with Ted Kennedy on education matters and labor issues, and they would find ways to get things resolved. Believe it or not, this times have changed, as you've mentioned, and we're also they're also kind of victims of their own success. I mean, here they created these districts through redistricting that are just either so to the right or so to the left that there is, again, no voice of moderation up on the Hill right now.
Trey Hardin, ABC News political analyst. Thanks for reading the tea leaves, Trey, and getting up early. Have a good day.
You too. Always a pleasure. Bye.
627 here on the Big 550 KTRS.